Hello, fabulous Gemini. Welcome to your horoscope for the month of November 2014, Love Focus. I am your astrologer, Nadiya Shah. Thank you for being here. This month, in the second part of the month, you have a lot of activity that starts happening for you. Fresh starts, new beginnings, all in the area of love. But before you get there, you're going to have some final bits of cleaning up to do as to what has been. In the very beginning of the month, we have Mercury making its last visits through the sign of Libra. Now, the sign of Libra, being 5 signs ahead of you, is a part of the sky that suggests and that speaks to romance and love, particularly the feelings of love. And if you think back to what was taking place in your life in late September, events that take place in the beginning of this month are going to speak back to and bring conclusion and further clarity to what was happening at the very end of September. So like I advised you in months past, last month and the month before as well, what tends to happen around this time is with Mercury moving back and forth from between your sign or within the sign, that has to do with romance, that has to do with the feelings of love and courtship and flirtation is. Sometimes you meet somebody new and it turns out they're very different than your initial impressions. Sometimes what happens is people break up and then afterwards they realize that they broke up over what ultimately turned out to be somewhat of a misunderstanding. And so whatever developments take place in love, they tend not to be permanent. If things start to change, if the landscape changes, if revelations come about while Mercury is retrograde in a part of the sky that has to do with romance, then chances are the information that you're getting or the realizations that you're having aren't the whole picture. And so now this is the whole picture coming together. This is your moment when the events that were taking place for you late September, now you're going to get a chance to gain your final bits of clarity. This is the universe returning you to a sense of, in some cases, balance, yes, but in some cases, it really is the final bits of resolution. It's the final bits of understanding that need to come together. And for some of you, this is going to be sort of an acceptance, really. It may not necessarily be that you feel that all things have come to conclusion, all things have been sorted out. But at least for now, you'll feel that you've found a sense of equilibrium and you're okay. And now you're ready to move forward in your understanding, in your lessons, if you will, where it comes to love. And then we get to the later part of the month. So the first part of the month, you're sort of clarifying and cleaning up what was, whether it was misunderstandings or whether it was mistaken impressions, all of that course corrected. And then we get you to the later part of the month. And it is in the later part of the month with this new moon in your opposite sign. And this new moon is so interesting to me, just like what was taking place last month. With last month, we had an eclipse happening. It wasn't in the same part of the sky for you. But that particular eclipse, as I spoke about in the weekly horoscope at that time, it was taking place just literally just hours after the sun had moved into a new sign and Venus had moved into this new sign. We have this new moon. In that case, it was a solar eclipse that took place, a new moon solar eclipse that took place. And we're having the same phenomenon this time, but it is happening in your opposite sign. So, and it's not an eclipse this time either. So what we have happening is the sun newly stepped into a new sign. Venus newly stepped into a new sign. These planets together meet the moon, or the moon meets these two planets riding very closely together at the very, very beginning of your opposite sign. And just as it sounds, it's very romantic for one thing. Venus in your opposite sign tends to bring romance, tends to bring a feeling that you want somebody who's going to be committed, who's going to be able to be with you in a partnership. But with this particular new moon as well, the fact that it's taking place at the very beginning of its respective sign suggests a beginning. And I want you to think back to, and especially once we get into the middle of the month and you're done with these Mercury retrograde lessons, use those lessons well, because when we have lunar phenomenon like a new moon, and especially such a romantic new moon happening, but it's happening at the very beginning of a sign. So the Sun and Venus haven't really had a chance to fully step into this energy. They're at what astrologers call 0 degrees. So they're at 0 degrees of their respective sign. They've just stepped into this energy, and it's just as it sounds. It's a new beginning. It's you stepping into something new or moving into a brand new experience. But it is just the very beginning. It's just the start, and it's going to need time to flesh out. And this is where, I mean, you know, I think about all the different ways sometimes that the universe is wise and loving. This to me is such a great example of how the universe is wise and loving, because you're just coming off of these lessons that have to do with you looking at yourself, that have to do with looking at love, that have to do with not taking things at face value immediately, reacting to things, but rather letting things have a little time to flesh out, allowing yourself to see a fuller picture, seeing how you might think something is one thing, but it actually might be something else. And you've got to allow for that space. You've got to ask questions before you make decisions. That's been part of the lessons in love for you since September. And now, just as you're finishing off those lessons, you get to have this brand new beginning in love. But what is it going to mean? Well, it's going to mean that you need to give it time to fully work itself out, to see what it is meant to be as issues, awarenesses, and new beginnings start for you in love in the second part of the month. Those of you within an established bond, I do think that this does look like you may hear some news, new endeavor on the part of a partner, a desire for a fresh new start in some area for your partner in particular, affecting you, but you may not be sure yet how it's going to affect you. Or it may be that your partner hears some news about some new beginning that could be happening, and yet it's not confirmed, it's not sure. You're going to need to give it a little bit of time to flesh out, in all honesty. You're going to have to wait as Venus continues to travel through this part of the sky late November and into December for things to more fully reveal themselves, for you to say, okay, I understand what it is that we're getting ourselves into. And I do think actually that next month we have Jupiter, the ruling planet of your opposite sign, standing still and then going retrograde, and it may take that time frame. It may take the early part, the first 2-3 weeks of December, as Jupiter stands still and then begins to go retrograde, for you to start getting a fuller picture as to what is happening with your partner, what developments are taking place, and how those developments are going to speak to you, how it is that you want to react to this, how it is that you want to go forward in this. Those of you who have somebody in your sphere, like maybe it's somebody that you're dating or somebody that you're interested in, I do think that it is the more strong connotation here is, or the more strong symbol for you is likely to be Mercury finishing off its shadow period, Mercury finishing off the lessons of the Mercury retrograde. Last month, in the month of October, Mercury was walking or re-walking over the part of the sky that had to do with romance for you. That pathway started in the month of September. The learning started in the month of September. Now you're finishing off. I do think the early part of the month is going to be the key month for you as you learn more about who it is that this person is, who you are, how you really feel in the context of this, and what role, what vision you actually see possible for the two of you going forward. But this is the time when you get that bit of clarity, things start to return to a sense of equilibrium, as I said earlier. That really is the key word, I think, here, is that if you broke up with somebody recently, this is like the time when things sort of clear and they may come back. Or you may decide to let them back, rather. If you met somebody, this is the time when you get a fuller understanding of who this person is that you're with. So all of that learning takes place. I do think that's going to be emphasized, but regardless of what you decide to choose, And whether you are with, have somebody in your sphere, or even if you are open to love and you're single, a new moon in your opposite sign pretty much always does bring somebody new. Somebody new should be entering your sphere now, should be coming in. But it's a 0-degree new moon, as I keep emphasizing. It's a 0-degree new moon. And what that means is it's a beginning. It is very beginning. And I do think that there's an element here, as you know, as this is symbolic of a very beginning, is, I mean, you might connect with this person. There may be an element here of you not really knowing this person. You might connect with them rather spontaneously. You may connect with them online. And there is going to be a little bit of a need for you to flush out just what this person is about. But ultimately, the learning here is to observe yourself in relationship, to observe yourself in love, to look at what you really want. That's going to be part of your sacred learning here, to get clear as to what it is that you're going for. And you are going to be taken on that journey in the coming weeks as Venus moves through your opposite sign. Before the month ends, in the late part of the month, Venus will speak in supreme harmony with Uranus. And to me, this does suggest lovely romantic occurrences taking place for you, where a partner feels like a friend, and you're having some social time. This could also be where a friend, you start looking at this friend like maybe this could be somebody that I could be with in terms of love, in terms of a partnership. So all of that seems to be coming together in the late part of the month. But that's part of the reveal, really. That's part of you getting honest with yourself. For some of you, it might be, oh wow, I really feel that this person is more of a friend than something romantic. And for others of you, it may be that what you thought of as friendship actually could be something romantic, but there's an element there of surprise. There's an element there of revelation. There's an element there of you being pleasantly enlightened, if you will, in the context of love, in social settings, and surrounded by your friends as well. One thing is for sure, though, the universe does want you to begin again in the context of relating. Whether it's how you relate to your partner and how you want to understand them, how you want to understand the bond that you're in, or it's with a brand new person. Regardless, there's plenty of love on offer for you this month, and plenty of learning that only love can provide on offer as well.